God bless the United States, and let's hope that a year from now we're able to look back on this and chuckle and say, hey, this is the greatest country ever, and we found a way to pick ourselves up and unite the country and move forward. I got at least an hour's worth of stuff to talk about. No, I'm kidding.
Fantastic. So I have a Old Rasputin Russian Imperial Stout right here. What do you guys have?
Today I'm on some
Call of Duty.
Tea. Yeah, Call of Duty. No, it's tea today, but because I've got a little bit of a head cold, but it's going to be beer from here on out. So
fantastic.
I think this is a Minnesota beer. If you guys like fruity IPAs, it's incredible. It's called Hooey.
Hooey.
It's very citrusy. It's so good. It's really, really good.
Sounds like a bunch of hooey.
Bunch of hooey. Yeah, absolutely.
So I feel like this week we pretty much have nothing to talk about. There's not been a lot of the news, you know?
Nothing's been going on. It's very just status quo.
Yeah, I mean, how is this going to impact people's finances? The probable outcome now of a Biden presidency.
Well, I think that we're going to see more spending, more subsidies. I think we're going to see less productivity. I think that the stock market could possibly go up a little bit more because of all of the injection of money into the system by the Fed. But, in reality, it's all of the stimulus that we are seeing is counterproductive. It's weakening the dollar. They're paying people for being unproductive. And ultimately, I think we're looking at less a stock market problem and more a currency problem. And if you see a currency problem, that is the same thing as saying a sovereign debt problem as well, the bond market. So I think in general, what we're going to see with under a new administration would be, at failed policies, more failed policies where we're going to see more money printing. We're going to see less productivity. We're going to see higher capital gains taxes, higher corporate taxes. I think in general, this is going to be a scary 2021. I think in general, we're going to see a lower standard of living. I think we're going to see inflation, higher prices across the board with less productivity, meaning people are making less stuff. Prices are going to be going higher as we are being paid literally to be unproductive. We're going to see higher taxes on the people that are productive, lower taxes on the people that are unproductive, and that's going to trickle down into the economy. I think it's going to be a situation whereby you're going to see higher prices, you're going to see a stagnant economy. And here in Minnesota, the rumor is that they're going to shut down the economy again, lock us all down next week, Friday. So, I think in general, what we're going to see is not going to be pleasant. I would certainly be out of the stock market right now, 100%. I think that it's not a place to be at this point with markets trading at all-time highs, with a detachment from Main Street, and now what amounts to a tax on corporate America and higher capital gains taxes. I don't like the backdrop. It's murky, it's cloudy, but I don't like the backdrop for the US dollar. I don't like the backdrop for the bond market. I don't like the backdrop for the stock market. And I think we're going to see some unraveling of these markets. I truly believe we will start to begin to see some unraveling of these markets into the first quarter of 2021.
We just interviewed Alistair McLeod. He echoed many of the sentiments that you talked about, fragility of the currency, loss of confidence in the dollar, high unemployment, low productivity, prices rising, that kind of thing. He did add that the debt burden will just exponentially increase. But ironically, that as we see loss of confidence in the dollar, there's that Austrian economics phenomenon of the crack up boom, where people flurry to put their funds anywhere but the dollars. They want to get rid of the dollar. So there can be a flurry of economic activity of things being purchased. So you can get a spike in stocks and real estate prices, that sort of thing, before the big washout, when people all finally, the last people being the people who are using the currency, realize that the currency is no good. So
absolutely, and that's what you will see, a rush to flee the dollar and to buy things. So you could very well see asset prices continue to rise, even in the wake of the backdrop not justifying it, and I think that's quite possible. But the thing of it is that all of the money that the Fed has given to the public to go and buy things, this year our trade deficit, if I'm not mistaken, is at all-time record highs with China and with Mexico. And that's why, with people being unproductive. In other words, the money that has been given has been used to buy things from our foreign creditors. And at some point, when it really becomes interesting, at some point, is when our foreign creditors stop accepting dollars. And I think that's the most important thing to take away from this, is that at some point, we were given the world reserve status in 1944 because our currency was supposedly as good as gold. In fact, we would redeem it for gold at the request of those who wanted to trade their gold back into dollars.
Besides, in 1944, we were the only one with a factory that hadn't been bombed out of existence. So
that's true. We were the largest creditor nation in the world, and now we're the largest debtor nation in the world. In fact, we have more debt than all of the other nations combined. But you could argue we would never be given the world reserve status again if things had changed right now. And at some point, I think we will be called on the carpet, and the rest of the world will stop taking dollars. And that's kind of, I think, what Alistair is simply saying, is that until then, there could be a crack up, and the people who are closest to the information and to the fire hydrant of money creation are going to exploit that. And so you could very well see a higher stock market, even though it's not justified. You could see people trying to chase yields in the bond market as they approach zero or actually go negative, trying to divest of dollars. You look at what the big banks around the world are doing, they're divesting of dollars, and they are accumulating real assets. And so this is, I would say, the ninth inning for the dollar. You go back to the 1400s, every world reserve currency that's ever been has a lifespan of between 40 and 50 years. And we left the gold standard in 1971. We are at the end of our rope. And I think what's different this time is, like you were saying, back then we had all of the manufacturing, now we have none. Back then we were creditors, now we're debtors. Back then we had patriotism in this country and respect from the rest of the world, and now we have none. We don't have patriotism, we have divisiveness. We don't have respect from the rest of the world. They've seen what we have done to the world reserve currency, and I think we're, in some respects, the laughingstock of the Western world when they look and see what's happening to our country.
I'd love to get Kaiser Johnson here. Actually, my brother, kind of the first time on the show. So, welcome. And I guess if we could, the Biden presidency, that was unexpected. I remember FaceTiming you right at during election night. I'm like, Trump won, yay! And then the next morning, it looked like Biden was going to win. So completely a reversal of what we thought was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean that's fascinating. I don't even know what to think about this whole presidential election debacle. I mean, for instance, I'm not saying that. I think it's just moronic to imagine that there is no such thing as voter fraud, and also that there's no such thing as voter suppression. Like, if the right wants to claim that there's no voter suppression that happens, obviously, I'm sure it happens in places, or voter coercion, that kind of thing. I'm sure it happens. Voter fraud, I'm sure it happens. Like, come on, let's just be honest here. How could it not happen? People are people, and so they're going to abuse the systems where they can. I mean, if you total it up, my wife and I were sent 3 ballots over the course of the thing. Because we were sent out, everyone in California was sent a mail-in ballot. We requested an absentee ballot because we moved. And so we received that. And then we ended up voting in Arizona, where we actually moved to because we managed to get registered in time. But if we were less honest people, there's a possibility we could have voted 3 times. We didn't, and we wouldn't ever think of doing that. But this idea that that this is a system that is not prone to people abusing it. I mean, that's just who honestly thinks that. So I don't know. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, and I think one thing with regard to that is I remain slightly optimistic with respect to all this investigation into potential fraud and stuff, because it's like, if there's fraud, it should be addressed, Right. If there's not, okay. But if there's fraud, it should be addressed. 4 years from now, I think we're going to come out of this with kind of more transparency with respect to the election system. I remember in 2016 when we looked at the Republican convention and everyone was saying, oh, it's going to be a contested convention, that's not fair and everything like that. What was the result of that? At least for me, it was educating myself. What does it mean for, how does a Republican get nominated? It was a bunch of education that everyone received about the election system. So I think the same thing will happen this time. So I remain slightly optimistic we might have a better election system, regardless of whether there's fraud or not. We're going to have a more trusted election system 4 years from now. But I don't know. Andy,
that would be a call for a distributed ledger technology for an immutable and transparent election, whereby a blockchain would hopefully remove this type of problem with multiple ballots and voter fraud. What I find to be very, very scary. Look, you folks all used to live here in Minneapolis with me. You know what Minneapolis used to be like, and it's a shell of what it is, what you remember now. And what would be very frightening to me in this city would be if this is severely challenged by Trump, it goes to the Supreme Court or wherever, and it is decided indeed that there was fraud. I don't know if it's even possible to do a do-over. Whatever happens, and if the extent of the challenge, I'm looking for massive insurrection, violence, protesting. And the way that people have chosen to protest is by smashing buildings, starting them on fire, and stealing what's inside. In downtown Minneapolis here, there's 8% occupancy in downtown Minneapolis. Everything that was a fun place to go hang out is closed or boarded up or had been looted or burned down. The city is a shell of what it was, and if this really becomes contested, as I believe it probably will, I think there's going to be a heck of a lot of protesting that could very perhaps make the front end of the storm that we saw this winter and early spring be pale in comparison to what the trailing edge of the storm will bring, and that is an administration that refuses to relinquish control, that takes this to the farthest limits that they can in terms of their protesting, and I think with that will come an awful lot of anger, violence. If this goes to an extended contested election and beyond, I think the inner cities are going to be a place to be avoided, and maybe that gives me more pause for concern than just about anything. The divisiveness of this country, the division, is unlike anything I've ever seen in my 50 years, where you can't even really sit at a dinner table with your family member, perhaps, who has a polar opposite view of yours politically, without it becoming contentious. And that's something that's different, in that, you can not like whatever ideology someone has, but you should always be able to respect them. And now it seems like even that's going out the window. And that's kind of, it's all of this angst that's floating through the air. And then when you talk about more lockdowns and the social aspect, the bonds that are being broken, the Friday night poker game that you've played once a month with your friends from high school, or the pickup basketball game you play, or the buddy who you work out with at the gym, or your friends who you like to have a beer with every Thursday for happy hour, whatever it is, those things are only adding to the anxiety. And I think you put it all together. These are scary times. I don't say that to try to persuade people into buying precious metals. There's nothing to do with this. I just, as a father of 3 kids, my youngest being 13, as someone who grew up in a city that he was very proud of and now looks at with horror and looking to move, I think that in my entire career and in my entire life, I have never had the level of concern for the future of my children, for the future of this country, as I have right now. I do not like the path we are going down. And I think that once and if we see this new regime take over, it will be very, very hard to supplant them. And we could be heading down the beginnings of a path that leads to socialism. I guess I'll say one last thing, and that is, in the last election, what concerned me more than anything, or what surprised me more than anything, was not that Trump won as an underdog. I was happy for that. It was that Bernie Sanders narrowly almost beat Hillary, and that to embrace socialistic policies, agendas is crazy. And when you see that we are moving slowly down that path, I think the further away you get from what made this country special and great, makes it harder to ever get back there. And it's for people like you, Dunagun and Elijah and Kaiser, who are out there, speaking the truth, that I have such admiration for, as we have to have people that remind us of what this country was founded upon and the principles that made this country great. And I think, in my opinion, they are slowly beginning to slide by. So I digress. And Kaiser, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that if the only way that you can get together with your friends is by protesting, if that's the state of the country, well, there's a problem there. If you're not allowed to get together with anybody unless it's in a protest,
then it's okay.
What are we doing?
Well, the governor of California wants us to, for Thanksgiving, to wear a mask in between plates of food.
Yeah.
So, we're heading down a path where the bonds that keep us all together are being fractured. Mm-hmm. And looking at it through the eyes of my 13-year-old daughter, it becomes much more difficult. When you're a grown-up and you have the ability to get in the car and do the things you want to do and be your own man or woman, it's one thing. When you're a 13-year-old kid, not being able to go to school, not being able to really see your friends, not being able to get into a car and go, you're just kind of trapped.
Yeah.
I don't like what I see. I don't like what I see, what it's doing to these kids. I watch how they're being taught. Now, you guys were homeschooled, and it makes me feel like that would have been the path to go from the very beginning, because what's happening in the public schools is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And, I've had lots of discussions with my daughter, and what they're being indoctrinated into is absolutely ridiculous. And I won't go down that path, but the conversation went down the road of, well, everyone should have equal things, right, Dad? And I said, well, no, Sasha, that's not the way it's supposed to go. Everyone's supposed to have equal opportunity. And that's what this is about. And what is being taught in the schools, the fact that they are learning on Zoom and they don't even have to have their camera on. They can sit on their phone with their camera off. The teacher can't see them, but they can see the teacher. The education is horrific. The message that they're being taught is frightening. And what's happening to them socially, the lack of those bonds that they are creating as children, is really bad. So, I say a prayer every night for this country. I'm a patriot. I'm concerned. And I hope that the people out there listening are taking the steps to protect themselves, not only as your father's website, Reluctant Preppers, is called. It shouldn't be reluctant anymore. It should be you need to take the steps to protect yourself and your family, and to prepare for what's coming, because these are unprecedented times, and I think they're only going to become more so as time rolls on.
Definitely.
Kaiser, you recently relocated from California to Arizona to improve the stability of your surroundings.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, I mean, what, it's just the tip of the iceberg. What, we're talking about the overreach of the governor saying, and if you're going to sing during Thanksgiving or Christmas, it needs to be at a lower volume than speaking volume. I mean, these sort of, and okay, it's the State Bureau of whatever that's saying it, but it's, got Governor Newsom's stamp on there. And just, I mean, it really was getting super invasive, and everything was shut down, and it was crazy. And it's like, how can we exist here? So we packed up and moved out. We're out of California now. So
definitely. Well, hey everyone, thanks for joining for our first Mugs and Medals podcast. This is great. So we'll actually be doing this every 2 weeks, and in a couple weeks we'll have a pretty special episode actually for you guys. But so how'd everyone like their drink? So mine, Old Rasputin Russian Imperial Stout, pretty good, I thought. So how about you, Andy?
Well, having a beer at noon on a Friday might lead to a second or a third, I guess. It was great. I had the local Hui brand here in Minnesota, super good IPA. It's fruity. It tastes like someone squeezed a couple of lemons inside of a beer. It's really, really good.
Right.
Well, I have to say that I wish this were a beer, but today I can't be having beer, but I will next time we get together. This is actually sparkling cider. So there you go. And
I'll be having beer next time too, but I just had tea today. But
well, in that case, I'll have a beer for the both of you.
Please do.
Free for the night.
I was going to drink a Sam Adams pumpkin ale.
Sounds good. I love the seasonal ale from Sam Adams. The winter ale is always one of my favorites.
Yes, it is. That's good.
Gentlemen, I appreciate I appreciate you guys tremendously, all three of you, and thank you for helping us get the word out, helping represent Miles Franklin. All three of you are the epitome of class and honor and integrity. You are what. Now, this is going to sound contrived, but I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Your family is what this country is all about. Your family is what this country was founded upon. Integrity, honor, just good people who do the right thing. And if there were more people like your family, this would be a much better country. So God bless you all. God bless the United States. And let's hope that a year from now, we're able to look back on this and chuckle and say, hey, this is the greatest country ever. And we found a way to pick ourselves up and unite the country and move forward. So thanks for doing what you do.
Definitely. And that's what it's all about, right? Changing the things that we can control. So
Amen.
Everyone, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
To acquire gold and silver, just go to libertyandfinance.com. When the main site comes up, click on Bullion Sales. That's libertyandfinance.com, Bullion Sales. You'll see my name, Dunagun Kaiser, my phone number, and my associate, Kaiser Johnson, his phone number, our email, libertyandfinance@protonmail.com.